you won't make it through A-level. It's as simple as that. It is because it's a I have a evil multiple choice. Hello wonderful people, it's me Angie. I hope you're having an amazing day wherever you are. As you can tell by the title, we're going to discuss how to choose your A-levels. I have 6 weeks left of my A-levels, 8 weeks including the Easter break, and I kind of still have that, ooh, I wish I chose this, I wish I chose that.
Cut the cameras. Dead ass.
So I want to give you guys advice so that you're not in that same position as me. So the first thing that you need to think about when you're choosing your A-levels is what A-levels do you need to take. If you are going for a vocational degree, so that means a degree that leads to a job like medicine, pharmacy, law, asterisk, law. But you may need to take certain subjects. So for example, with pharmacy, medicine, you need to take chemistry. If you're taking economics, you probably need to take maths. You need to go and do that research if you do know that you plan on going into these fields through university. Of course, there are options like foundation courses, but this is not the video about moving around in courses. It's just about choosing your A-levels. Once you've got that research, fill out your A-level spaces with the subjects you need. So with me, I've applied for medicine and engineering and a few other things, but I had to choose 2 sciences and I chose chemistry and biology as my 2 sciences. The next thing you need to think about is your grades, and I know this can be difficult for some people like me. If you've watched my GCSE reaction video, click up here to go and check it out. I got all 8s and 9s in all of my subjects, so that wasn't really a useful thing to help me determine what I will and what I won't take, because I pretty much got the same grade in everything. But if you do have a big gap and in certain subjects you're getting 9s but in other subjects you're getting 5s, that might be a good indicator. Maybe that might be something that you need to consider. The third thing you need to think about when deciding what A-level subjects to take is, what do you actually like? Don't just take a subject because you are good at it. If I think about some of the subjects I got 9s in, for example, English literature and religious studies, I couldn't take them for A-level because as much as I like them, I prefer reading the books that I choose and not being told what books to choose. It just so happens that my school actually do books that I really enjoy, like The Great Gatsby and A Streetcar Named Desire. And with RS as well, I really love it, but it requires a certain level of mental effort that I can't maintain at all times. So I had to think, what do I really like? What I really like is French and Spanish and Chinese and my science subjects, and that helps me to narrow down to what I ended up choosing. The fourth thing that you need to do is to look at past papers.
And you might be thinking, but babes, I've not even started the subject, why am I looking at past papers?
It's important to look at past papers so you can see what you're getting yourself into. So if you're staying at the same school or you've already decided what school you're moving to, this is really easy because you can look at the exam board that the school does. If you're going to a new school or a new college, or you haven't decided yet and you're keeping your options open, this is a bit more difficult for you. You still need to go check out the papers and see what they're actually testing you on, because what you'll find is that even if you like the subject, you might not like the way in which it's tested. The testing may not be what you expect, so you may be thinking, oh, it's going to be the same setup as GCSE, or it's going to be this, it's going to be that, and you might be wrong. So you need to go and check it out so you can see if you actually want to be tested in this way on that thing. Great example for me is A-level chemistry has multiple choice at the end. Evil multiple choice, but it's still multiple choice at the end, and I had to think, is that something that I want to do? Is that something that I can grapple with? That's not what I was expecting. With maths, they've separated pure and statistics and mechanics. Is that what I like? Do I prefer it if it's more integrated? All of these different things are questions you should be asking yourself, because maybe you think you would do well in the subject, but the testing is too different to GCSE, or it's too similar to GCSE. There are so many different things that you have to think about when you are looking at these papers, but just have a quick look. You don't have to understand the content, obviously, but it's just so you know that when I take A-level PE, it's actually going to be a bit more theory than just practical, for example. The next thing that you need to do is to either watch revision videos or check the specification. And I know once again you're thinking,
but babes, I have not taken this subject.
It's important so you can see the scope of the content. So a good example of this is with physics. In my school they do a medical physics module as well, and that is something that I'm really interested in, but I wouldn't have known that if I didn't check the specification. Maybe in another school, on another exam board, they don't have that medical physics module, but instead they have an additional or an extension of the astrophysics module, for example. It's important that you just have a look so you know not only how you're going to be tested when you look at the past papers and whether you have to do an NEA or not, and all those different things, but if you're actually looking at the specification content, that would be really eye-opening to you, because even with me, when I was looking at what my current school do now versus my old school, I actually really prefer the biology content that we have in this specification, because it doesn't go too in-depth for me. But if I was someone who was going into biochemistry, for example, and needed that extra level of detail, then yeah, the specification, the content done at my previous school would have been preferable. So make sure you have a look at that. And also just seeing the style of revision videos out there, whether they're revision videos out there, that might impact your decision. Flashback to GCSE, but there's no resources out there for 9-1 GCSE Chinese. I'm the only year who's done it because this year, last year, it's been cancelled and it was introduced a year later than other subjects. So maybe you wouldn't want to take a subject like that if there's less support and less resources there, or maybe it doesn't matter to you. These are all just questions that you need to ask yourself. Okay, so maybe you are completely stuck and you've got 2 or 3 subjects chosen and you need to choose a 4th or a 3rd depending on your school. In this situation, I think that you should consider facilitating subjects. So facilitating subjects are basically well-rounded subjects that can help you open the door to several degrees. For example, maths, one of the reasons I chose maths is because it's a facilitating subject, and it means that I can apply to do economics, I could apply to do engineering. It can help me when I'm going to medicine. It can help me. I actually looked at certain humanities courses and they were like, if you have maths, that's okay, you've got analytical skills. So I think this is mostly the science subjects, but also modern foreign languages, more of the stereotypical traditional harder subjects. If you look at official list of the hardest A-level subjects, it's typically STEM, modern foreign languages, history, those subjects there. Rather than more modern subjects like media or law. And those are really useful because you want to keep as many doors open as possible. You don't know where you want to go yet, all these different things. And I think that it's important that if you do choose a facilitating subject, you should still enjoy it. Like, let's not forget that, which is leading into the next tip, is that I'm reiterating this. You need to enjoy your subject, because if you hate it, you won't make it through A-level. It's as simple as that. It won't be easy. It will be an uphill battle. It will be climbing Kilimanjaro, wearing roller skates covered in grease. It's not an easy thing to do. So I just want to make sure that's evident, like very, 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 very clear. Make sure you choose subjects that you like. But I digress. The next thing to think about is easy A-levels. So there are lots of resources and sources that say these are the hardest A-levels, these are the easiest A-levels. And I think, I mean, putting them aside, as much as I might flex, like, oh yes, all of my A-levels are really, really challenging in some weird masochistic flex. But I think it's important you think about that what makes something easy and what makes something hard for people is very different. With me, having to have an NEA, coursework, constantly writing essays, that is hard for me. Even though some of those coursework subjects may be ranked lower in difficulty, whatever that means, for me, it's not something that I could do. That's just my personality. Whereas other people might think having to get that practical endorsement, having to do that level of what do we even do? Sorry, they cancelled exam in my brain. all the referencing and all the risk assessments for practicals and your practical book, like all of that might be difficult for people. So think about what you like, what you enjoy, and how that's going to impact the difficulty, because it might be you find coursework really hard, but you love geography so much that you want to do it anyway. It might be that you just don't want to have a practical book and practical books, but you love physics that much that you're just going to do it anyway. So that is something you need to think about when it comes to easiness or difficulty of A-level subjects. The final thing that I need you to do, which is kind of I guess maybe a controversial tip in an A-level video, but it's to consider BTEC and IB, International Baccalaureate, or even PreU. Like, there are so many different things you can do instead of A-levels, and that's not pushing you off A-levels. I'm literally doing my A-levels right now, but it's just to make you think that there are different routes, different paths to the place you want to get. If you want to go to university, you can go to university with IB and with BTEC and with PreU. There are more resources easily available for giving the A-level route, but the other routes still exist and you should still consider them and look into them, because what you might find is you would do better off doing BTEC applied science than you would doing 3 or 4 A-levels in science, and you still end up in the same university anyway doing well. You need to think about how you thrive, and maybe having small checkpoints and assessments as you go along, or maybe having your high levels and your, like, having more variation in your subjects with IB would be a thing to do. Like, I think it's important that you don't just assume you should go into A levels because that's what everyone does, and that's not to push you off, but there's no way of choosing the right A levels if A levels aren't for you. Ooh, I don't know if that was a good quote, if that was really a word of wisdom. But anyway, comment down below if you have already taken your A-levels, advice for people so that they can choose the right subjects. If you haven't chosen yet and you have questions, comment down below. I'm sure there's other people who can help you out and support you. But yeah, as always, make sure you're wonderful people. Smile, subscribe, study hard, slay hard, and I will see you again very, very soon. Bye.